Great. So why don't we go ahead and get started for tonight? So you can go ahead and find a comfortable spot. And if you need to lay down, that's fine. Just put a pillow under your legs, under your knees, so that your lower back will drop. And that'll help you stay comfortable. And let's just begin with just a couple of breaths just to arrive. And there's been a lot going on in the world this week. And some people are feeling like their systems have been kind of overrun or assaulted a little bit. So let's start with just noticing how your body is right now. And letting yourself just notice the energy that's here. It might be shaking or braced or tight. There may be pain. And what I want to invite you to do is just gently begin to let this energy or pain or racing just bubble off or rise off your body. Just to make a movement so that you're not holding on to it. And I invite you to take a moment just to do a little tracking and notice where the energy is leaving from. So it might be leaving from your back or chest, top of your head, or your hands or feet. Wherever it's leaving from is fine. And if it's a lot of energy or feels big, imagine you're someplace outside, outdoors, where there's big space around you. It can be a beautiful meadow or a beach, river valley. And just give it lots of room. And tonight, since a lot of people may be having a lot of extra energy, we always talk about how energy never dies, it just changes form. And so if you like, you could imagine that all the energy leaving your body is turning into butterflies or songbirds. This energy is able to take another form, something that's more healing or nourishing. You don't have to make it into anything. You just hold the intention that this energy can change into something really nourishing or beautiful. I know one person who likes to imagine that they have butterflies just leaving their body, just blessing the world. And I invite you now to also include your mind, to notice any tension or stress that you're holding in the mind. Could be racing thoughts or bracing, stressful thoughts. And again, don't hold on to them. It's all right that they're here, but just let them go. Let them bubble out or rise off. No need to hold this tension in your mind. You can begin to let your mind empty. Empty of the day, of stressors, of all the stories you've been carrying. Another way to think of it is you can take all the stories and just put them outside the door or over there for now. You can pick them up later if you want. But for right now, just putting them over there, letting them bubble out. And finally, allowing yourself to notice your heart and your feelings. And if there's any tension or holding here, to begin to let it go. It's okay that there's holding here or stress or hurt, sadness or fear. But again, there's no need to hold on to it. Let it just begin flowing. And so any extra tension or energy is just allowed to release from anywhere in your body. And just notice if there's any spaciousness now, or any place where it feels a little softer or quieter. And let yourself begin to breathe into that more spacious area, that more peaceful or calm. Again, just letting any extra energy bubble off as you do this. You're just focusing now on something that's more spacious, more at ease. And you can let it get as big as it wants. Doesn't have a particular size. Can be as big as a dime or your body or the whole room. Doesn't matter. Each time it's different. And let yourself take a moment to rest here, to just be spacious, be calm. All the extra energy can keep bubbling off. And we're just taking this refuge. And finally, I invite you to let yourself now notice or remember a moment of joy you've had. Could be with a person or doing a favorite thing, passion that you have. Or just being outdoors in this early fall. And as you touch into this joy, allow yourself to breathe it through your body. Just breathe it in, recalling this joyful moment. Allowing the joy to soothe your mind and body and heart. Feeling the soothing through your body. Feeling joy in your body. and letting the joy sparkle in your mind. Just the ease that you have with this memory, this person or this event. And letting your mind remember how pleasant it is. How safe it is. And then finally, just breathing this joy into your heart. Feeling the gratitude of this joy. Letting the joy change you, change your cells, soften your heart. And now just letting the joy get as big as it wants. No need to grow it. But if it wants to get a little bigger or fill the room, just letting joy get as big as it wants. So, hopefully you're feeling a little softer, a little more centered. I wanted to just touch in this week to, seemed like there was a lot. Seemed like there was a lot this week. For people, there was the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and all that that brought with it. Then there was the Senate saying that they were going to confirm a conservative Supreme Court justice, and that kind of was a roller coaster for everybody. And then this afternoon, there was the verdict in the Breonna Taylor case, or the grand jury. And what I've been noticing this week is that a lot of people have been contacting me, and two things are really up. One is a lot of anxiety. A lot of people have been holding a ton of anxiety. And that anxiety has been manifesting a lot as a form of kind of fighting or duking it out. Like people are feeling really split. And people are telling me stories about how they're revving and they're getting on their Facebook and they've just got pulled in and sucked in, and now they're, arguing with their cousin or whatever might be happening, or their cousin who's usually, can you not hear me? You can hear me okay, Anne? Okay. So, and people just saying, I'm getting caught. I'm getting really caught in a lot of this. And really interestingly, a lot of meditation teachers have a phrase that they use for these times and these days, and they say that we're in a race against time between consciousness and fear. Like, who's going to win? Is consciousness going to win, or is fear going to win? Right? And so there's this, you can feel the tension of this, and people are even fighting. This is the interesting thing. I see people fighting for consciousness, right? They're going to get on Facebook and they're going to tell somebody how to wake up, or you're not seeing this clearly, or what's wrong with these people. That's what I keep hearing. What's wrong with these people on both sides? What's wrong with these people? I saw a quote from somebody this week who's very conservative, and they put up a quote from Reagan about, when fascism comes to America, it will be dressed in liberalism. And this person truly, truly in their heart believes that, really believes that. And so tons of fear, feeling that liberal agendas are fascist, and other people on the liberal side feeling like they're dealing with fascist. So there's a lot of fear going on here. But what I wanted to talk about is that in this, if you're caught up and you are caught in some kind of, I have to fight for consciousness, or I have to do something here to change the world, that very nature of fighting actually is not going to help very much. It's part of the problem, actually. The world is dealing with a lot of separation right now, and that is a separate kind of mind. I'm in one corner, somebody else is in another corner. But what I wanted to also talk about is that it doesn't help our systems. And the reason why is that the way our brains work is that whatever you are doing or spending time on, those are the systems that you grow the most in terms of neural nets, synapses. The dendrites, if you look at a dendrite on in the brain, in neuroscience, they look like trees. And on areas that we don't use a lot of, the dendrites are kind of, just a few, and they're scraggly. But if you use something a lot, it looks like a really robust tree, like tons of dendrites. So the more you use something, the stronger it gets. And so I want to talk about a delusion that a lot of people have, where they believe, if I fight first, then I can have peace. Then I will feel happy. Then I will be safe. So a lot of people believe this in this kind of fight and flight place. If I write all these letters, then I'll have peace of heart. If I talk to my cousin and I tell him off, then I'm going to feel better. And what people don't realize is that it actually doesn't work that way. Because when you're growing your brain synapses, you're only growing what you're doing. So, in some mindfulness traditions and spiritual traditions, you'll hear something like, wherever you put the mind, that is what will grow. And so we like to believe that when I get done with this, I'm going to feel better. But in fact, we just strengthen that entire network. So in order for us to feel better, to be at ease, then we need to be able to grow the dendrites and grow the systems that actually provide happiness, joy, and ease. So as we just did that last sit, you may have noticed you came to the sit pretty stressed out, or whatever you were carrying for the day. And the more that we just emptied, and I kept going through body, mind, and heart, because we have neural nerves in all these areas of our body. So for instance, we have neurons in our heart, wrapped around our heart and in our gut. And so actually the stress we feel in our heart or in our gut is part of this stress. It's all connected to our mind. We could say our mind kind of goes through our entire body. So if you want to be in balance, it can't be, let me do all my chores first, and then I will rest and be in balance. Because all you'll serve to do is actually grow the stressful neurons. So you wouldn't think of it, but you actually have to cultivate happiness. You actually need to cultivate joy, need to cultivate ease or compassion. Okay, so let me just, I'll recap there. So basically, we like to think that if we do our chores or we fight or we take care of business, that we're actually going to go ahead and feel better and be happier and be okay after we get our chores done. But what we don't realize is that we're actually building more dendrites and more neurosystems that are actually just going to keep us in that loop. And normally that's not too much of a problem because we do our chores and then we go do something fun. But when we're in a stressful time like we are today, what I'm seeing happening to people is that they keep reactivating into being accessed by anxiety. And so what happens is that this system of, well, I'll just do my chores, I'll just write my letters, I'll just talk to my cousin first, I'll just, whatever it is, people are starting to rev. They're starting to get cooked in their system of trying to do good or be good in order to get to happiness. And it's not going to work, and eventually it burns our system out. So what I'm proposing is that actually what we need to do is make time to cultivate happiness and joy and ease in our day, throughout our day, not just once in the morning, but actually take breaks and go feed the neural nets that are bringing joy in. So just like we did in that sit, where I started with the body just the way it is, and then I kept going through the mind, the body, and the heart, because we have neural nets wrapped around and throughout our body. We have neurons that are, connected in wrapping around our heart and our gut. And so our mind is actually all through our body. So we want to go through our body, our mind, our heart, and our body and release the tension several times a day if we can. Go outside, be in something beautiful, take time to listen to some good music, dance, do something like that. If you don't start feeding yourself some kind of joy and ease and compassion, the system's going to heat up over these next few weeks, and you're going to see more and more people get caught in a trauma cycle that they just can't self-soothe. They can't stop working. Some people are saying to me, I'm starting to become obsessed. I'm starting to get OCD with stuff. And it's because there's no break in the system. So in mindfulness, we take this step back. Yes, the world's on fire. Yes, everything's falling apart maybe. We take the step back, we clear our system, we breathe it out, we come back into flow, and then we step back in. And now we're clear. I was working with someone earlier this week who was talking about, just doing a lot of service. But their service had gotten so tight because they were so attached to the outcome. And they were feeling like things are heating up and they had to. They had to break through. And when they finally were able to release, suddenly what was coming through the service was this intention of love. Like suddenly it's like, oh, wait, I'm serving from love? I thought I was fighting the universe for a minute there. I thought the world was on fire and I had to fix it all. It's like, no. We want to take the step back. So, there's this quote from the Dalai Lama that I love, and I really think it is so true these days. Compassion is the radicalism of our time. Compassion is the radicalism of our time. Doesn't that make sense these days? How radical is it for you to stay compassionate? The flood is going the other way. The flood is splitting off and people are fighting and infighting. And it's also true for self-compassion. It's a radical act to take time for yourself and step off the grid for a second and just recharge your batteries and then step back into the fray, right? So this idea that we have to cultivate happiness. We want to cultivate happiness so that we build the neural nets for happiness, joy, ease, so that they sustain us during this time where, as the old teachers have said, we're in a race during this time, a race between compassion and fear. We're in a race right now between compassion and fear. And we want compassion to win. We want the split in our mind to heal and soothe and settle so that we come back to remembering, oh, this is my neighbor. Oh, these are my beloveds. Oh yeah, I see you again. I got lost in the haze for a second. Yeah, we don't want to be part of the difficulty that's out there. So how do we do this? We take time several times a day, just little breaks. They don't have to be very long. Just going out and standing in the sunshine and just bubbling off whatever stress you're holding. So to me, it's a two-step process. That's usually what I do each week. The first step is release. Come back into the flow, start getting the energy to flow again. You don't have to try to be anywhere in particular. Just let it start flowing, releasing. If you need the river valley, great. And then the second step is remembering something that's positive or engaging something that's positive. We've done gratitude, joy. You could do love. You can do sunshine. You can just be outside. And this early fall is such a beautiful time. It's still warm. And yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, Anne.
Yeah. Today during the set, I really needed to release crying, sadness, tears. And I really resisted letting the energy bubble off and going to the joy because I'd been resisting the sadness.
Yeah.
And had quite a day of bad news and stuff. And I was like, oh, and the crying felt beautiful. I still have more to go, but how does that fit in to this format you're talking about?
Yeah, so I think that, there's two things. I mean, sometimes you just need to cry, right? And so if that's what's really present, then you can certainly take that time to do that. What you want to watch out for is that you don't get caught in a cycle where it starts a feedback loop. And one of the ways you know you're in a cycle is when you're crying and you slow down, the crying slows down, and then you hear something, you remind yourself of the sadness or you think of the sadness again and you rev yourself back up. So it was on its own, you maybe would have only cried 5 minutes, but if you're crying 20 minutes, chances are you've reactivated yourself 3 or 4 times already. Does that make sense? So if that's what's happening, that's actually not a helpful cry because you're just reactivating yourself over and over again. And you see this with anger too. You're really mad at somebody, oh, she's a blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden it calms down. And then you're like, and another thing, and then there you go. It's like you reactivated yourself. It had its own natural flow and you're actually attached to it and going. So in those moments when I feel that crying is in a cycle, not helpful, or too big. Or rage, any feeling, emotion. I usually work with it as energy. I feel the energy of the tears, and I let the energy of the tears rise off my body. And I often find that by letting the energy rise off, I'm not actually physically crying, but I can feel it moving through my system. Does that make sense? Yeah, but sometimes you just need a good cry, and that's okay. It's okay to do that. You just don't want to get caught in those cycles, those feedback loops. Yeah. So to me, doing this release first and then touching into something nourishing, something that actually feeds you in this moment. It can be right in your present moment, like, oh, the trees look beautiful, the flowers, a puppy walked by, or it can be recalling something that you have gratitude for. I really think of my benefactor at this time. I say prayers. You know, if you're a Christian, I check in with Jesus, and I check in, you know, with my religious beliefs in that moment. Something that brings ease, and then breathe it through your whole body. That's really key, is to actually anchor it in your system, to flood your cells and your nerves, your body, heart, and mind. That's where your mind will make that shift and come out of that cycle and be more centered. And then you're ready to go back. You're ready to get back in there, and you'll find you're not nearly as activated, not nearly as hot as you were 5 minutes before. So I just want to give total permission for little vacation breaks throughout your day. Little joy breaks, gratitude breaks, release breaks. Because I think we're coming into a long ride in these next few weeks. I think a lot of roller coaster is going to be happening. Yeah. So I just have a couple of quotes I just want to read before we finish up. This is from Goenka, who is a brilliant meditation teacher. He says, in meditation, we withdraw from others and focus our attention inside so that we can gain a purity of mind and wisdom energy. Clear seeing, wisdom energy. Then you must become extroverted, and you have to use the energy you found. He says, when you take a long jump, you have to always step backwards first in a long jump, right? Nobody jumps from here and does a long jump. You go back first, he says, and then you run and make the jump. So like this, you first must withdraw, observe yourself, develop some clarity, unlock your wisdom, then go make the long jump back into society, and you can serve society well this way. These two steps, he says, can never be separated. So it's always this back, come back in, touch in with myself, and then come out to the world. And a lot of people get caught in, no, I'll just push through. And that's where we end up saying something we didn't mean to say, going off on somebody, falling apart, getting sick. So I want to just invite you to this idea that it's a step back, take care of yourself, step back in. And then this is a quote by Bob Sharples. Don't meditate or do mindfulness to fix yourself. Don't do it to improve yourself. Don't do it to redeem yourself. Rather, always do it as an act of love. Do it as a deep, warm friendship to yourself. In this way, there is no longer any need for the subtle aggression of self-improvement or for the endless guilt for not doing enough. Instead, let your mindfulness always be an act of love. It's a pause and an act of love. Yeah. So it's a moment of coming home and nourishing and being kind to yourself. And then we take a breath and do that long jump back into society, back into the world, back into our families and whatever else we're dealing with. So, I hope this is of help to your practice. You will not get happy by doing your chores. You're going to have to make some space for happiness and gratitude and joy and love and your spiritual practice, whatever carries you. You're going to have to make space for it. And please do. Please do, because we need you clear and compassionate and loving and being your true self, not caught up in this race for fear and, consciousness. We don't want everybody on the fear side. It's going to tip the scale way too far that way, right? So, yeah, whatever feeds you, spread it too. If you find a quote that you love, put that up on Facebook. People can use a little break themselves, or Instagram or whatever your social feeds are, I also want to remind you that, if you're struggling or need some ease, you can go to my webpage and click on the links for all the sits that we've done. I've recorded a number of them. There's also some audio recordings that just help us release and come back into essence, into our essential nature. And sometimes you're too wound up to do it yourself. Like if you're really wound up and have no concentration, then that's a great time to listen to somebody else do the words, whether it's one of mine, or look up Tara Brach, or, Jack Cornfield if you love him, whoever it is that helps you soothe, right? So let's go ahead and just take a mindful moment right now. And this is just where we bring our intention to share what we're doing here. So you can close your eyes or look softly at the floor. And so may our practice and our attention to care and well-being, our willingness to soothe our own minds and come back into sanity, may that strengthen our own practice, and may it ripple out from us to be seen and known by others, touched by others, so that they also can benefit from the power of release and coming home to our essential nature. May all beings learn to release and touch into the joy that's there for them, so that they may know well-being and freedom from fear.